Did you know that there is one area in your life that if you start to improve, it will have a ripple effect and start to improve every single other area in your life? If you start to improve this one thing, it will make your relationships better. It will make your health better. It will make your business success better. You'll be a better parent, a better friend, and just overall happier and more fulfilled in this world if you just focus on this one thing. Guys, I'm going to tell you exactly what that one thing is, and I'm going to give you 5 very practical tips that you can start implementing right away to start improving this one thing in your life that's going to make everything else better. My name is Mark Amos with Elevated Agents. We're getting into all this and more right after this. All right, guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining again. My name is Mark Amos with Elevated Agents. I'm super excited to have you here today because I have a really powerful video in store for you. And I hope that you get a lot of value out of this and stick with me through the entire thing. Parts of this, depending on where you're at in your journey, may be a little over your head. Some of these are going to be a little bit more advanced topics, but I promise no matter what level you're at in your life, you are going to get value out of this video as we talk about the one thing that you can improve in your life that has a ripple effect and will improve every other area of your life. So I'm super excited to dive into this with you. You know, this video idea didn't really even come to me. I was asked to make this video after a mastermind call that we had earlier today. And so we have live mastermind calls in our group, both AJ and I, in the Elevated Agents Facebook group. We run live mastermind calls Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do them at noon Eastern. I'll leave a link down in the description below in case you want to join us. It's open to any real estate agent, anyone of any walk of life, no matter where you're at. If you just want to grow personally, particularly in the real estate space, no matter what brokerage or affiliation you have, we would love to connect with you. So feel free to go ahead and check that out. And during the call, we were talking about productivity and habits and just how to get the most out of our day-to-day activities. And so I made a few comments that afterwards someone asked me if I wouldn't mind going back and making an additional video to go into a little bit more details. We were talking about this. And so what's the one thing that you can improve right now, that you can work on daily, that will make every single other aspect of your life better? Anyone? It's your mindset. It's what happens up here between these two ears. That is the most important thing that you can work on probably in your entire life, because if you work on that one thing, everything in your life will start to get better. And I want to explain a little bit about why that is, but I also really want to talk about 5 practical steps that you can take to start developing a more beneficial mindset. And so I don't say a good mindset or a bad mindset, because I think one of the biggest problems that we as humans have is we spend so much time judging good and bad, and we judge ourselves when we do something that's like, oh, Mark, that was bad. You shouldn't have done that. Or, oh, Mark, that was good. Let me give you a reward. Let me give you a little dopamine hit. And we spend so much time judging our behaviors and not enough time just analyzing our behaviors and going, okay, maybe that wasn't the most beneficial. Instead of something being bad, maybe it just wasn't helpful. Maybe it didn't serve you. And so I want to talk a little bit about how you create the type of mindset that does serve you, and the type of mindset that once you employ and build and develop over time will start to truly do what I said and make every other area of your life better. Your relationships are going to get better. Your mental health is going to get better. Go figure, right? Your fitness is going to get better. Your health is going to get better. Your overall mental clarity is going to get better. Your business success is going to get better if you focus on building up a strong, positive mindset. So there's a couple different areas that I want to go through. And so why is mindset important? I've done another video, and I'll link it in the corner up here, on something called the reticular activating system. And so again, the way this works is a little bundle of nerves that we find in the base of our brainstem, and it's about the size of your pinky, and it's essentially the filter that takes all the information that we gather all day, every day. Right now, I'm sitting in my studio, and I've got 11 million bits of information between what I'm seeing and what I'm smelling and what I'm touching and what I'm hearing. I've got 11 million bits of information coming into my subconscious mind every single second, and I get to process 40 to 60 of those in my conscious mind. So there's way more information out there than what's actually making it from the outside world into my conscious mind that I get to then think about. And the way that this filter works is we give it instructions through the things that we pay attention to, the things that we focus on, the things that are important to us. And so when we focus on certain things, our subconscious says, hey, this must be important. We're putting a lot of energy and focus into this one thing. Let's make sure that if any information comes in that meets that criteria, that we send it up to the conscious mind in those 40 to 60 bits of information that it gets to process every second. And so what this means is that we literally get to manifest the world that we live in. And this is not woo-woo, this is just actual science. You can look this up on the way this works. And so the way that we see the world is largely dependent upon ourselves. We see the world not the way that it is, but we see the world the way we are. And that's a very important thing to know. And so if you see a very negative world around you, I hate to tell you this, you're a very negative person. If you see a very positive, happy world around you, you're probably a very positive and happy person. And the reality of the world that we live in doesn't change, but the way that we view it and the way that we perceive it and the information that's out there that actually makes its way into our brain for us to process, that's dependent upon our mindset. So this is so important because adjusting your mindset literally allows you to adjust the world that you live in. You get to create this world that you live in. You get to choose whether the things that happen to you are good or bad. Again, we do this judgment about, well, this is good and this is bad, and yet we so many times don't realize that something that happens to us that we apply a label as this being bad. We never took the time to ask ourselves, what could have been the good thing that came out of that? Like, why was that good? Like, I know my gut is telling me that like that experience that I just had is bad. But if I remove judgment and I say that things aren't good or bad, things are, and I just have to try to learn as many lessons as I can from the things that happen, what positive lessons could I take out of the thing that otherwise would just get labeled as bad and bring my day down? How can I take that same experience and find positive things that I can go, oh wow, now I see the connection. Now I see why that may have happened. And again, this is not delusion. This is not convincing yourself that the world is different than what it is. This is you needing to understand that the world you see the way that you are. You see the way your mind is wired to receive this information. And so literally changing your mindset can absolutely change your perception of the world that you live in, your perception of reality. And those things ultimately become real, okay? Our thoughts become things. The things that we think about become the things that we speak about. The things that we speak about become the things that we do, and the things that we do repeatedly become who we are. So the things you think about become who you are and become the things that you have and the things that you do. So this is very, very important. And so the 5 areas that I want to dive into today are the 5 areas that I think you need to start at in order to start building this foundation of a beneficial mindset, right? A mindset that is more likely to serve you and get you closer to where you want to be and not farther away. And so the first item that we need to talk about is clarity, right? What is it that you want? The second thing we're going to talk about is identity and how you create an emotional connection to the items that you want that you gain through clarity. Next, on the third thing we need to do is look at the habits and the actions that we're currently taking and which actions serve us and get us closer to where we want to be and which actions are not serving us and are taking us farther away from where we want to be. So we need to do an inventory of these things. Once we've taken inventory of the habits and the actions that we are taking in our daily lives and which ones are serving us and which ones are not, we need to figure out a way to replace the habits and the actions that are not serving us. And the last thing that we need to do, and this is the continual work, this is the work that never stops, okay? Those first 4, those are more check boxes, right? You can do those once. You're gonna have to revisit them from time to time, but this last one is the most important, and that is thinking about what you're thinking about your mindsets. There's a lot of things that we need to dive into there as well. And so again, the first thing being clarity. What is it that you want? What race are you trying to run? And the reason that this is number 1 is so important is that if you miss this step, if you don't dive deep enough on this step, steps 2, 3, 4, 5, all of that, I don't want to say is for nothing, but what's most likely going to happen is you're going to get to the finish line of whatever race it is you were running and realize that you were running the wrong race because you didn't spend enough time gaining clarity over what it is you actually want. So many of us do the things that we think we should want or that we think other people want for us. Or there's a story that we've developed over our lifetime, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. There's a story that we've developed, and that story has in it the person that we're supposed to be, right? That our parents and our teachers and our friends and society kind of convinced us we're supposed to be. And that's the person that we're actually striving to be, not understanding that those aren't the things that we want. That's not the person that we were meant to become or that we want to become. So the very first thing you have to do is get clarity over what it is you actually want. This is a pen and paper exercise, guys. This is not just sitting around pondering, although that can help. If you don't meditate, I would recommend meditating. And so why do we meditate? Things like that. Why is meditation important? And again, it's not woo-woo, it's science, right? What we're trying to do is remove a lot of the distractions that are happening in our lives and get to a more calm state to see things a little bit more clearly and try to remove a lot of the narratives and the stories that are normally going on in our head to allow us to gain that clarity. Because so often the thoughts that we have, again, we judge them, right? We apply these value judgments to the thoughts that we have or the things that we want to do. And, oh, well, I can't do that. That's bad. That's not who I'm supposed to be. This is not a good thing. This is a bad thing. We apply all these value judgments and it just keeps us frozen because we're afraid, right? There's all of these things that we have these value judgments made on. This is good. This is bad. And we end up not doing anything because we're afraid that if we do something, we're gonna be doing the wrong thing. And so if you can get clarity over what it is you really want, what does your ideal day look like? What does your ideal life look like? What does your ideal career look like? What does your ideal relationship look like? You need to go through all the areas of life and figure out, like, if I could have this any way that I wanted, what would it be? And here's the thing that I need to tell you that trips most people up, is most people, when they're trying to figure out what they want, they try to do what they think they're capable of. Okay, that's the biggest mistake I think people make when they're trying to figure out what it is they want and they're trying to get clarity, is they do it through this lens of their story of, well, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at. And so given the deck of cards that I was dealt, this is what I want. And oftentimes it's not really what they want, it's just what they think they're capable of. And I can tell you that if you base what you want based off of what you think you're capable of, you will never live a fully fulfilled life. You will never reach the level of potential that you are capable of, because you have to understand that your abilities can change. You can get better at things, you can improve, you can learn new skills. You don't have to base what you want off of the person that you are today, base it off of the person you could be in the future. And so figure out what it is that you want first. And that takes us to step number 2, which is then forming an identity around the things that we want. So what is an identity? The identity is how we see ourselves. It is the story that we have created for ourselves. And we all identify in different ways. Some of us identify as being smart, as being dumb, as being athletic, as being not athletic, as being healthy, as being unknown. There's so many different things that we identify as. And so what I would suggest to you is, once you figure out what it is you want, truly what you want, if resources were unlimited, if talent and skills were unlimited, what is it that you would want? And then we start building this emotional connection to that, and that is called our identity. We start to identify with the characteristics and the traits and the habits of the people who are able to get those things that we decided we want when we gained our clarity. So who do you need to become? And that's a very true statement, right? Who is it that you need to become? If you lay out this very clear picture of what you want your life to look like, the next step is figuring out, what would a person who has those things and does those things, what would that person think like? What would that person talk like? What would that person act like? When would that person get up? When would that person go to bed? How would that person spend their time? Who would that person spend their time with? What would that person be reading, be watching, be listening to, right? How would they spend their free time? Okay, these are all of the things that you have to think about once you've developed the vision of what it is that you want. Is who do you have to be to get those things, right? Picture that. And again, this is a pen and paper exercise. Write this down. Right? A person, if your goal is to be wealthy and in shape and healthy, what are the things that a wealthy person who's healthy and in shape would do? How would they act? What would they eat? Right? How would they exercise? If so, how much? What would they do for business? How much time would they spend focusing on all these things? Try to figure this out. And if you can't, then what I need you to do is find people who are out there who have the things that you want. Whether that's relationships, whether that's material things, find people out there who have the things that you want already and look at the things that they do, right? Success leaves clues, okay? If you find someone who has what you want, you can reverse engineer how they got it. It's not luck. It's not right place, right time. It is things that we do in our life and actions that we take that get us the things that we have. So if someone has the things you want, figure out how they got it and rinse and repeat, rip off and duplicate. So that's the second one, right? Is understanding who you need to become and building this identity. And the reason that identity can be so powerful is because we have this thing where we don't like to do something that is counter to our identity, right? This cognitive dissonance where we believe ourselves to be a certain way, and if we catch ourselves acting in a way that we don't feel is in alignment with who we say we are, there's friction. We get uncomfortable. It's not a good thing. And so the reason that identity is so important is it makes it so much easier to sustain the types of behaviors that are necessary to get the things that you want, because they're in alignment with your identity. Every time you do one of these things that maybe you don't like doing, that maybe is uncomfortable, that maybe isn't fun, if you're doing it because that is who you are, you're the type of person who does that, it's so much easier. And so an analogy that I gave today, and you may have heard this before, but if someone wants to stop smoking and they're hanging out with a friend who smokes, right? And maybe they haven't had a cigarette in a week, 2 weeks, a month, I don't know. Someone offers them a cigarette. There's a couple ways that they can respond to that offer. And one can be, no thanks, I'm trying to quit smoking, right? That's one way. The second way that I would tell you is the right way, or a better way, a more beneficial way, a way that serves you, is to say, no thanks, I don't smoke. Those two things may not seem that different, but I can tell you that the difference is not insignificant. It's actually massive. There's a massive difference between those two. What does the first person say who says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit smoking? What you're saying is, I'm still a smoker. I'm just trying to quit, right? I am a smoker, but I'm trying to quit. And, it's probably going to be a lot easier to actually get that person to take the cigarette than the person who says, no thanks, I don't smoke. Right? There's no struggle there. There is no follow-up like, oh, well, you can just have one. No thanks, I don't smoke. It's the same person going through the exact same thing, but they literally just answer a question differently. And the reason they answer that question differently is because one person has adopted the identity of someone who does not smoke. The other person has the identity of someone who smokes but is trying to quit. Now, you tell me, who do you think is going to be more likely to successfully quit smoking? The person who still identifies as a smoker and is trying to quit, or the person who says, I don't smoke, I'm not a smoker? I think we all know the answer to that. And so that same logic applies to all of the other areas of your life, right? If you want to be more successful in business, you need to identify as a successful business person, someone who is successful at what it is that you do, and then figure out what actions people who are successful at business actually take, and then take those actions, right? If it's to be in better shape, you need to identify as someone who is in shape and that who takes fitness very seriously, and then look at people who have what you want, who have the body that you want, or whatever it is, and figure out what they did and do those things. There are no secrets here. So that's the next step, right? Is figuring out what our identity needs to be to become the person that we want to become. So once we do that and we identify the habits of the people who have these things, we then need to look at our own habits. And we need to take an inventory of what are the things that we're actually doing every single day, and which things serve us, i.e. get us closer to where we want to go, and which things do not serve us and take us farther away from where we want to go. And again, this is one of those things that it's a pen and paper exercise, guys. Get the pen and paper out and literally write down the things that you're doing. The reason that this is important is because these are habits. They are habitual. We don't think about them. If we thought about them, they wouldn't be habitual, right? Habitual literally meaning we do it out of habit. We're not even thinking about it. You probably don't remember whether or not you brushed your teeth this morning. You likely did because it's a habit. It's habitual. You have a routine that you do in the morning, from getting up to going to the bathroom to getting in the shower to combing your hair to brushing your teeth. All the different things you don't have to think about because it's just part of who you are. They're habits. And so it's very important to understand that if you want certain things, you have to have certain habits. And if you have habits that are taking you farther away from the things, you need to change those, okay? So the third step, again, is doing an inventory of the habits that you have, the actions that you take, and then identifying which of those you need to maybe double down on and do more of, and which of those you need to remove. And that brings us into number 4, which is replacement. Figuring out which habits we have that are not serving us and finding a way to replace that with another habit that will serve us. A lot of us have habits that don't serve us, that are toxic and that make us worse, right? That could be stressing over things. It could be drinking too much. It could be smoking. It could be just having a bad attitude. It could be arguing. There's a number of different things that it could be, and they're habits that we have that are not serving us and taking us far away from our goals. And so the important thing to understand is when you replace a habit, every habit that we do, almost every action that we take in our lives is there to fulfill a need that we have internally. And if you study Maslow at all, you know that he lists certain needs that we have as human beings, right? We need certainty, we need uncertainty, we need significance, we need love and connection, we need growth, and we need contribution. Those are the 6 main things that Maslow would say as human beings we're striving for all the time, and that all of the actions that we're taking are in some way to get one of these needs fulfilled. And a lot of things that we do will fulfill multiple needs. It may provide us certainty and significance and love and connection. That could be smoking, right? Someone may smoke because it gives them a feeling of certainty, okay? They get the feeling of calmness or whatever it is they're looking for, that feeling, they get that. Maybe they get significance. Maybe the circles they run in, other people smoke, and so they get to feel significant by being a part of that group. Maybe your mom or your dad smoked growing up, and maybe they're no longer with us, and maybe you smoking gives you a feeling of connection, love and connection to that person that's no longer with you. And it could be any number of these or any combination of these, but that's why we do most of the things that we do, is we're trying to meet these core basic needs that all human beings have, and so we take certain actions to do those. Now, when you replace a bad habit, right, and again, I hate to use good and bad, when you replace a habit that does not serve you, and you want to replace it with a habit that does serve you, you need to make sure that you identify which of those needs that habit is currently fulfilling. Because here's what trips people up, and here's why a lot of times habit replacement doesn't work for people. They try it and they go, I tried that, I did this, and I replaced it with that, and I ended up 30 days later just going back to what I was doing before. The reason is that the habit that you replaced, the habit that serves you, that replaced the habit that doesn't serve you, wasn't meeting the same needs. You just replaced it with a different habit, but it wasn't a habit that was meeting the same needs. So you still have, now you have this unfulfilled need for whatever it is. Again, certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, contribution, growth. One of those needs is now not being fulfilled because we took this habit away that wasn't serving us, but it was at least fulfilling that need. So we need to identify what needs are being fulfilled by the actions that we take and the habits that we have. And once we do that, we again can now get a lot more clarity on the steps that we would need to take to find something that would fulfill those same needs and yet also serve us. So when you identify the needs that you have, that this non-beneficial habit is fulfilling, identify those, and then start making a list of what habits could I replace this with that would meet all of those needs, okay? So that's the replacement part. Now the last part, number 5, gets into thinking about what you're thinking about. And that might sound kind of dumb to some people. Like, well, what do you mean, Mark? I just think. I don't need to think about what I'm thinking about. I promise you, you need to think about what you're thinking about. And this is probably the most powerful. Like, outside of gaining clarity, if you can gain clarity and then think about what you're thinking about and through the lens of those other 3, that will probably get you pretty far, because this is what people don't do. They don't think about what they're thinking about. They have these thoughts and they just allow all of these thoughts to come into their mind, and they don't stop them. They don't reject them. They allow all of these positive, negative thoughts that serve you, thoughts that don't serve you, just constantly come in. And unfortunately, so many of us spend so much time focusing on the things that we don't want, not realizing that simply by doing that, we're inviting all of those things into our lives. So again, I want to go back to the reticular activating system where we started this whole conversation and tie that in to why you need to think about what you're thinking about. So when I say think about what you're thinking about, acknowledge the thoughts that you have and put them into context, and question the thoughts that you have and whether or not those thoughts serve you or don't serve you. Is the thought I just had a thought that gets me closer to or takes me farther away from the person that I want to be? Is the thought that I just allowed myself to have and reflect on a thought that's in alignment or not in alignment with the identity that I would need to have the things that I want and be the person that I want to be? And so one of the crucial things that you need to understand is that, again, when I talk about 11 million bits of information coming into your subconscious mind every second, and you getting to actually use 40 to 60 of those, you need to understand that your mind will feed you the things that you are focusing on, and it does not understand the negative. Your mind, your subconscious mind, does not understand the negative. What do I mean by the negative? It means doesn't, don't, can't, whatever the case is, a negative iteration of something, your subconscious does not get it. It can't process that word, doesn't know what it means. Again, this is science. So when you say, I hope I don't get stuck in traffic today, you're telling the world, I hope I get stuck in traffic today. Boy, I hope I don't put on 10 pounds. You're probably gonna put on 10 pounds. I hope I don't get in a fight with my kids after school. You're probably gonna get a fight with your kids after school. Why? Because if you just remove the don't from every single one of those statements, you're saying, boy, I hope I'm late. I hope I get stuck in traffic. I hope I get in a fight with my kids. That's what your subconscious mind is hearing. It doesn't understand that you don't want that thing. What it knows is that that thing must be so important because you are spending your time and energy focusing on it. And so what it's gonna do, out of those 11 million bits of information that come into your mind, it's gonna feed those to you. And it's going, hey, you know, you wanted to get in a fight with your kid after school, boom, here it is, right? And you will find a way to make that happen because you were focusing on it. It doesn't matter that you didn't want it. What matters is that you were focusing on it. And if you understand that, this is super, super, super important. I don't know how to stress this strongly enough. If you focus on the things that you don't want in life, you will continue to get more of the things that you don't want in life because it has nothing to do with the fact that you don't want them. It has to do with the fact that you're giving them energy and power and focus. And anything that you give energy, power, and focus to, your subconscious will try to find more of. It wants to bring more of that into your life. Now, if the current mindset that you have is one where you're focused on all the negative things and the things that you don't want, that's not good news. But here's the amazing news, and here's what makes this hopefully one of the best videos that you will see in your life if you can begin to understand this. It works the exact same way when you focus on the things that you do want. When you focus on the things that you do want, the same way that your subconscious is feeding you all the things you don't want, when you're focused on them, when you focus on the things that you do want, your subconscious will start sending those to you as well. And once it starts sending you these thoughts, those thoughts become your words, those words become your actions, those actions become your habits and the things that you do repeatedly, and that becomes who you are and what you have. So that's the amazing news here, guys, is that this can work for both positive and negative. If you focus on the things that you don't want, I can guarantee you, you will continue to get them over and over and over. And you'll be perplexed, you'll be confused, you'll be frustrated, you'll be angry, and you'll probably blame yourself, you'll blame someone else, you'll blame your surroundings, you'll blame your circumstances, because it's like, I don't want any of these things and they keep coming my way. The good news is you can change that. Change what you focus on, change what you think about what you're thinking about, and don't let the things that you don't want even come into your mind. And if they do, acknowledge them and let them pass. Don't spend any additional time, any additional energy focusing on them, because they will come true. But like I said, the same thing holds true for the things that you do want. Focus on the things that you do want. Instead of saying, boy, I hope I'm not late. Man, I hope I'm at least 15 minutes early. I hope traffic is so good I'm 15 minutes early. Now you think it's like, Mark, there's no way that your thoughts can control traffic. I don't know, maybe not, but I will tell you that I have seen this happen in my own life, where the things that I don't want, that I focus on, no matter how far outside of my control it seems they would be, those things tend to happen. But when I focus on the things I do want, no matter how far outside of my apparent control those things seem to be, they tend to happen. And so, again, just to reiterate, you get to control the world that you live in. We see the world the way we are, not the way the world is. And so if you want to change the way you see the world, you need to change the way that you are, because the world that you see is a projection of your subconscious based on your thoughts, based on your beliefs, the things that are important to you and the things that you focus on. And guys, you have the power to change all of this. You have the power to take control of your life in a way that 95% of people will never do, because this is not easy. This takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of really deep, uncomfortable conversations with yourself, identifying the traumas in your life, the things that you need to heal, the things that gave you the stories that made you develop the negative thought processes in the first place. If you can identify those and you can start to work on those, and maybe that means forgiving someone, maybe it means forgiving yourself. But if you can do these things and you can work on these things, I promise you, you will change the world that you live in and every single thing that touches it for the good. Your relationships will get better when you start focusing on the things you want in your relationships and not the things you don't want. Your business will get better when you start to focus on the things you do want to have happen in your business and not the things that you certainly hope don't happen. Your health will get better when you start to focus on what you want your health to look like and not what you don't want it to look like. Guys, it applies to every single thing in your entire life. So again, get clarity on what you want. Figure out what identity you would need to have to get those things. Take inventory of the things that you're doing and not doing. Find the habits that are serving you and double down. Find the habits that are not serving you and replace them. And then think about what you're thinking about and make sure that you're not thinking about the things that you don't want. I promise you, if you try to work on this a little bit every single day, again, focusing on number 5, and when you catch yourself thinking about something that you don't want, immediately switch it. Immediately switch it. Pattern interrupts. Say, got it, caught it. I'm focusing on things I don't want. What instead do I want? Focus on that. Guys, if you stuck with me through this entire video, thank you. You are one of the few small percentage of people who are likely to now take this and actually put into action. But if you watch this and you get excited because you realize that what I'm saying, or there's an inkling in you that thinks that what I'm saying is true, you might not believe me, but understand that I believe me because I have seen this happen in my own life. Borrow my belief. I don't just believe this works, I know it works because I use it every single day of my life to improve my situation in life, and you can do the exact same thing. So if you don't believe me yet, borrow some of my belief and just try it. Try it for a month and see what happens. Try to stop focusing on the things you don't want for a month of the things you do, and you tell me 30 days from now if your life's not better, because I can almost guarantee you it will be. Guys, thank you so much for watching this. Please take action on this because nothing is going to change unless you change. I love you guys so much. I really appreciate you watching. I hope you got some value out of this. If you did, hit the like button down below. If you don't want to miss any other videos, go ahead and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Until then, be well.